Okay everyone, in this video I'm going to show you the lecture that I would usually do in class, which is basically how to apply one texture to another image. So with this folder here, which you should have which you can download the link to below this video. Once you've decompressed it, you can see that there are two exercises and a texture folder here. We're going to just do the exercise 1 to start off with. So we'll select both of these, drag them down to the Photoshop icon. Once again, drag them into Photoshop. Don't drag them into the canvas here. Actually drag them over the icon to open them. All right, since we're going to be working with both of these, I'm going to go to my window, and under Arrange, I'm going to do the 2 up vertical option, so we can see them right next to each other. All right, so the first thing we need to do with Photoshop, which is what we often need to do, is tell Photoshop what we're going to turn into wood. So we've got the marble texture right here, and we've got the wood texture right here. So once again, because it's a stupid computer and it can't read your mind, we need to tell it what we want to make into wood. So to do that, we're going to use our quick selection tool right here. And once again, make sure you're using this with the W, not down here with the B for brush. And remember, as always, you want to start from the center when using the quick selection tool and kind of slowly push out. Now, I know for a fact, because I've done this a couple times, that this is going to actually work pretty well because there's a nice separation between blurred and unblurred image. We've got just a little bit of an overflow here. And remember, to get rid of that extra, to deselect something with the quick selection tool, we're going to hold down the Option key. You can see that it goes from plus to minus, and then go the opposite, from the outside in. So push in there, and now we've got our statue selected. So now we have to go over here to our wood texture, click on that tab. We're going to select all of this, so we can do that by holding down Command A, or if you're on a PC, Control A. You can see you now have those marching ants marching around the wood texture. We're going to copy with Command or Control C. Come over here. Now this is where things are a little bit different. If you were just to paste with Command or Control V, it would just paste that image right on top of it. What we want to do is we just want to paste the image into this selection that we've made with the quick selection tool. So to do that, there is a keyboard command for this. I'm a big fan of keyboard commands, but for this, because I think you have to use about 3 modifier keys, I always forget it. We're going to go to Edit, Paste Special, and choose Paste in Place, or Paste Into. I'm sorry, don't do that. Okay, and you can see, yeah, there are 3 modifier keys. And if we hit that, what that's going to do is it's going to paste it into the selection we've made. There was also one that says Paste Outside of, which would have done the opposite. All right, so now we have our wood texture, and it looks basically like a silhouette here. So if we go into Layers, let's take a quick look. You can see, if I zoom in here, that we've also got our additional mask section right here, all right, which is masking out everything but the area where our statue is. So how are we going to blend these two? Now, we already have learned about the opacity, and that will work okay, but there's something else I want to show you, which is called blending mode, or blending mode for a layer. And that's right here where it says normal. If we click on this, you can see there are a bunch of different options. Now let me explain what a blending mode is going to do before I actually click on any of these. What it does is it basically compares 3 properties of the pixels, and this is roughly what it does. This is a good way to think about it, between the current layer that you have selected and the image that is below it, the images that are below it. So it basically compares those pixels on its hue, which is its color, remember, like red, yellow, green, blue, its value, the lightness or darkness, and its saturation, how vibrant or strong the colors are. And depending on which mode you choose, it'll basically let either the top or the bottom of those values win, or it might, with some of these other ones, actually kind of change certain things before it does it. I can go through and tell you what every single one of these does, but honestly, most people that I know that are professionals, they kind of go through, and if they're just looking for a specific look, they'll just kind of go through one by one. And over time, you kind of get an idea for what they do. To give you a little bit of help, These top ones, normal and dissolve, are basic ones. The dissolve one is pretty much the same as opacity. If we look here, these top sections that are right here, the darker value is going to win. All right. And here, primarily, the lighter value is going to win. If it's the top one has a lighter value or the bottom image has a lighter value, it's going to win. Here, it's a little bit more of a mix between the color and the value. Here, that actually does a little bit of different things. Like, for instance, exclusion will actually flip some of the colors. There you go. And then at the very bottom, it works within this idea of hue, saturation, color. Once again, you can go through every single one and look at it, but just for brevity's sake, I'm going to go right up here to multiply, which is going to keep the color and some of the texture, but also bring in the underlying value. So if we look here, you can see we have a pretty good representation of that. And we can also go in and modify that a little bit more if we want to bring it down just a little bit with the opacity. All right. Now, something else just as a kind of fine point here. If you look at some of this, the texture goes right over top, so we can go in and fix that. What we're going to do, make sure we've got our top layer selected. I'm going to call that wood. So remember, we need to name our layers. And I'm going to go up to our filter and choose liquify. Once again, remember, liquify is a damaging item. Now, right now, for you, it probably looks like this, and that's just because you need to click on this little thing that says show backdrop. Yours may not look like this. I think that there is some interference between the screen capturing thing that I've video capture program that I've got and the display here. So let's just zoom in some so we can see our statue here. And you can also play right here with these, with this opacity. All right, I'd say about 50%. Don't go all the way because then it won't actually show you what it's doing. So right about 50% is good. And I'm going to use this little, the first item up here, which is the push tool. I'm going to take the pressure down just a little bit so it's not so strong, and then just zooming in a little bit more. I'm not going to go over the entire thing, but you can see like right here, there should be a little bit of a change, maybe right here. So this just kind of looks like, gives it a little bit like it's wrapping around the item there. All right. So that's just a quick way to kind of add the texture. I'm just giving you just a little sample of that. So now you can see that when I zoom out, it kind of looks a little bit more like it's going around and wrapping around that. All right. So that's the first exercise, how to kind of add a wooden texture to this marble statue. I'm going to close this up here. Let's go to our next exercise, which is exercise 2. All right. This is, we're going to once again drag this down into the icon. This is a politician from Virginia. This is an old picture, probably about 10 years old or so. So I don't know if he's still doing what he's doing. I don't know what his policies are. I just know that it was a large picture that I could use. Now, before we go in and apply some texture, there's something else I want to show you. I'm going to use my eyedropper tool here. If we look at where things should be white, instead of them being white, you can see that they're a little bit more on the orangish brown side. That's because this image has what's known as a color cast. And color cast is basically when a camera kind of gets confused about what lighting condition it is. If you look at like a white wall or something inside or outside, you just think, oh, it's white. But if you really look at it, you can oftentimes see that the bulbs are actually a little bit more of a yellowish, orangish color. And if you're coming outside, you also get a little bit of a bluish color. Sometimes with digital or even with analog cameras, they get a little bit confused as to what the lighting condition is, and they give you what's known as a color cast. This one has a little bit of a yellowish color cast. The easiest way to fix this is right up here under our image. You can see that there is auto tone and auto color. They pretty much do the same thing. They look for the brightest pixel and try to change that to white. The way that they change it to white is a little bit different. The algorithms are a little bit strange. What I usually do is I just kind of go through and try one. Okay, Command Z to undo, and let's try the other. Image, auto color. Okay, so just to see which one you like better, this one looks fine for me. So now that's done. Once again, this is destructive, but usually it's not a big deal because you are trying to make things look a little bit better. If you guys ever have to restore or retouch older photos in particular, the way the color cast was controlled then oftentimes was done through the choice of film, or there was like a little filter that went in front of it to kind of offset that. So this is a little bit more common in older photos, even with older digital cameras. All right, so that's just a quick kind of intro into that. Let's go back in, do what we did before with our quick selection tool. Once again, starting from the center, pushing out. All right, once we've got a little bit of his hair, holding down that option key and then coming in just a little bit. Not doing the best job here. Let's get a little bit of that ear back. There we go. All right, and then once again, we've got a hairline here, and what's the best for that? Once again, making sure you've got your either quick mask or magic wand tool selected. We're going to go to select and mask. I'll change this over to our red overlay by clicking on that little V right there. And then once again, we're going to use the this option right here, which is the refine edge brush tool. And remember, with the refine edge brush tool, you're going over a little bit of what you want and a little bit of what you don't want. So you're basically kind of letting Photoshop know that this is the area where I want you to look for some of the stuff that I want to not be selected and some of the stuff that I want to be selected. To basically the area that you want to refine the edge. All right. Don't go too far over things because then it's going to get a little confused. All right. So if I go back to my black on white, we can see we've got really nice separation there. So we're going to hit OK. Now we've got this selected. Let's go into our texture. So we've got an entire texture folder here. You can also find a bunch of really great textures online because of 3D modeling. There are great libraries available. I'm going to use the cracked mud. Once again, dragging this down onto the icon, not onto here, onto the icon to open it as a separate image. I'm going to hit Command A to select all that, or Control A, Command or Control C to copy. Let's go back over to our portrait, and then once again, edit, paste special, paste into. All right. And if we look once again at our layers, you can see that we've got that selected. And right now, if I wanted to, I could move this around. Let's go in and change the multiply so we can actually see the face below. I can actually go through, and because I've got these white brackets around the image itself, I can move this to find a really nice section here. If I wanted to move both the mask, which is right here, and the image, if I click between the two, it'll create a little link icon, and now I can do that. But for this, it's really nice to have that image kind of selected there. Now, let's go in and fix a few things before we go any further. So you can see this is kind of really interesting. We'll clear this up a little bit. But first, what I want to show you is, because we were using this mask, I can go in and get rid of all of this around the eyes. Although this looks kind of really cool around his eye right here. What I want to do is make sure I've got my brackets around this second option right here, around the mask. And then using the brush tool, which you can get to by pressing B, not the auto select tool, brush tool, I can then go in, and remember, black hides things. It's like turning the lights off. White is like turning the lights on things. And like you can see, since I'm painting black on that image, I'm bringing his eyes out. All right. This gives it just a little bit more of a realistic look. All right. And you guys can also see this if I hold down Option and click on the mask. You can actually see what I'm doing. All right. This is also sometimes nice to make sure you're not accidentally leaving any areas out. So you can see here, where it's black, it's hiding that texture, and where there's white, it's showing it. So once again, holding down Option and clicking on the mask, I can bring this back. All right, and as you guys can see, since I've got that, making sure I'm on the right area, I can move that around, and the eyes are still going to be kind of seen. All right, let's go through and change the opacity, bring that down just a little bit more so it feels a little bit more realistic. If we wanted to, we could change the color or some of the values. To do that, hold down the Command key, go over top of your mask here, click. You can see now it's just selecting what's within the mask. And I'm just going to change his face to kind of a green color. So I'm going to use hue and saturation here under our layer styles. And I'll just zoom out just a little bit so we can see the full effect. That's pretty good. Change the saturation a little bit. All right. And then, once again, if we look at our layers here, you can see that it's creating that same mask as we had before. It's masking out the eyes because we've already done that. And then I can take the opacity down just a little bit to maybe blend it in just a little bit more. All right, so now we've got this weird kind of zombie face on our senator. So that is the basics of how to add texture to or change the texture of one kind of material to another. In the next video, I'm going to show you two really quick and interesting things. One is basically it's called content aware delete. It allows you to sometimes remove things that you don't want and fill things in. It's magical when it works, and it's very comedic when it doesn't work. And we'll also learn a little bit about a technique that is used very often in retouching to kind of get rid of blemishes and to smooth skin out. And it's a technique that I think it's important to know, but I think it's overused, and I think people push it a little bit too much. And it's called frequency response. So we'll learn about both of those things in the next video. All right. Thanks, guys.